Hello, this is my thoughts on a basic Kensai fighter. Pure Kensai, with the U51 Destiny changes. I'm showing my complete layout. I'll also link a file for the planner for the build. Past lives are minimal, very minimal past lives. Only a couple of lives, so this is very basic. This is not an advanced fighter build. So this is something you can do on a first or close to first life build. The destiny points are also close to first life. It only has a couple of. It has the tome from having epic destinies. It has a +2 fate tome, and it has the tome from the destiny +1. So you went from 24 to 25 destiny points. So if that tome is kicking in, I'm not sure if it's kicking in correctly yet. I have that. That is all this guy has. This is a two-handed fighter. I went with Fury primary, Shadow secondary, and then just a little bit in Dread, and I'll explain why in just a moment. Fury is the primary. The on-demand damage of Adrenaline is extremely useful in questing, yeah, useful in raiding. It's just nice to be able to, there's the bad guy, you go kill it. Even with the slightly nerfed Fury, it's still really good. There's also quite a bit of sustain in Fury. It's just a nice all-around Destiny. Other Destinies are great too. This is just what I did with it. So I chose every option to do Adrenaline. I chose that. I chose 1 point in the mantle in order to advance the tree upwards. The other options are individually not amazing. So I chose the mantle just to have an option to go up. The next thing I chose going up was the Primal Scream. It's 100% uptime now, and also hits allies, so this is just great. It's pretty much a no-brain choice. The Boulder's Might, this is basically identical to the existing Boulder's Might, so I chose that. This is the attack that you use after you hit Fury, just without fail. Always do that. Next going up, um, I increased the Adrenaline damage bonus. If your character has access to Rage through Barbarian, you get extra strength, that's great. But the main thing is increasing the Adrenaline damage bonus. So that's a mandatory pick. I picked Double Strike. I feel that is this is optional depending upon your amount of lives you have. So I could have shaken my points a little differently, and I still can on this build because I'm at 102 Double Strike. So I could siphon some of this to somewhere else. Uh, I just put them there. So I could put them do this a little bit differently. It wouldn't be all necessarily that beneficial. If I did move it differently at 102% double strike, maybe we would take a little bit of this sustain through Embrace the Pain. Um, I did not, due to this character being a raid character only. This character doesn't quest, so I ignored a lot of the sustain and fury that would be more useful to questing. I put, just because of how the points shook out, and I could siphon over, I put in a sense weakness. I'm not running in the Fury Mantle for the most part because, again, raid bosses don't take the extra helpless damage. So that is the decision I made there. Then moving up, double the value of Primal Scream. This is just extra damage. It's nice. And then you also have the if you do quest or in certain phases and raids where there's trash, you can do a little bit of extra CC, so that's nice. Extra damage, it's fine. I took again, every place there's double strike, I took that. Double strike beats out every single DPS stat on the melee, for the most part, until you cap at 100. I took the adrenaline. Again, every place there's adrenaline, I took that to increase that. I took the Upgrade here to give a heal for a little bit of sustain and a little bit of damage reduction. So this can be useful in places like Vision when Orthons drop, Project Nemesis when there's trash running around. So it's every 30 seconds you get a pretty sizable heal without a ton of investment. I mean, this heal is hitting for 3,000 almost pre-Reaper. So that's pretty good. So there's a little bit of sustain there. I took at the top the hit points and PRR, and I will take Harbinger of Chaos in place of Dire Charge, and so I will get double the bonus there. So we'll have a little bit extra hit points at that point. Uh, I did take the Epic Moment. The Epic Moment is really good. It's crazy good. There's a lot of sustain there, so this is great during any crunch point. The end of Vision, generally the end of Too Hot. It's pretty good to have that extra sustain, and then have the extra damage to pile on. That's just really good. And so like Vision, you have access to this with both Orthon phases. Other raids, you have access to this in different phases. Uh, the critical increase, that's a given. And then I took the Great Leveler. This has been a on this, it looks like a pretty good replacement for Dire Charge. It's just different. It's instead of charging, it's a cone, and it's not bad. It is a trip DC. My itemization already accounts for trip, so if you're set for just stunning, you will have to adjust a little bit doing Fury for trip tactic DCs. Um, there's some possibility for fine tuning. Again, this is more of a hot take than anything. This is just what I've come up with so far, day one, basically. The next, going into Shadow, I feel that most physical DPS dealers will probably go to at least this third tier in Shadow, or if not, they'll go up a little bit in Shadow. Every core is melee power, the same melee power as the other destinies, with the additional benefit of the sneak attack dice. So Shadow, if it's not your primary, it's probably going to be your secondary for a DPS character. So I took all the cores. Uh, you get D-Door, it's convenient. Not a reason why you take the core. Evasion is okay. The real reason we're taking these cores, though, is in order to benefit from that sneak attack dice. So then I take the threat reduction. Threat reduction is good. This can allow you to either filigree differently or worry less about your damage in general, or take some um, make the tank's job a little easier. The Night Shield is just extra. It's not necessary. It's just a nice gimme. For a character that does not have Thief or Rogue levels, I chose the Reflex saves because it was the least bad option. The other options, spell points, not necessary for this character. Assassinate DCs, not necessary for this character. If you're playing a different kind of melee that uses assassinate, just maybe you take this instead. If you have a character with rogue levels, I highly recommend taking all three tiers of this, Technician, and taking Nimble Fingers for the sneak attack die. That is a lot of damage. Again, if you can get that feat in, and you probably can, that is a significant amount of damage. Otherwise, do this. Then we're going to go up 3 sneak attack dice, 1 per point. That's really hard to beat. That's a lot of damage. That is a lot of damage. Then I took the Shadow Mantle, and I took this due to the context of the character. This is a lot of defenses once you upgrade it, which I did do. Um, maybe you do this, maybe you don't. For my purposes, the let's turn it off. The gain in Incorp and concealment is pretty high, and that's a lot of defenses compared to the minor trickle heal, especially when there's healers present. Your individual circumstances may warrant a different choice. That is simply what I chose. Getting the extra incorporeality and concealment did require taking Depths of Darkness. And I also took the double strike, double shot enhancement with a side benefit of being immune to energy drain. Handy, not necessary. Just nice double strike again beats out every single DPS stat. For my last piece of enhancement or piece of destinies, I chose to put points in Dreadnought. I put a point in the core. I put a point in this core because in addition to the melee power and hit points that the other melee cores give, this also gives fear immunity, which frees up an augment for the fighter. Um, there's other ways to get fear immunity. It's fine. This just freed up an option for me. Then I put 1 point in dire charge. This does uh, use the same timer as adrenaline. Um, I put a point here in order to have a leap, in order to leap out of circles, or perhaps leap across a chasm, or to perform a maneuver that you cannot do otherwise, unless you have Scooty Booties. Um, so I did that. I had 1 point left. It could easily go somewhere else. It could go into more fortification bypass. You could do something else with it. I just chose dire charge to give me that option. You definitely don't have to do that. That is my hot take for the Destinies. You can see gear I've used. I'm not changing the gear on this build. I'm going to keep the same gear from before. Gear can be whatever you want. This just works for me. It's what I have. It's what I'm sticking with. We'll show that real quick. And then I'll show the build file, and I will either link the build file or an export of some form for YouTube. So there's the itemization, and then I'm using the axe. The build file, as such, using the matron planner, which will take a little time to be updated for the 51. I am making a change at 29, dire charge for Arbinger of Chaos, so that'll add a small amount of damage and add some defenses thanks to the Destiny in enhancement in Fury. I will post this as well. Uh, I did take quite a bit of toughness and armor champions to get more defenses. You could just as easily, if you have more investment in your character, put some of these feats into more weapon focus to get more just raw damage. This is just what I did. So there it is. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.